I wanted to apologize for the last video that I posted. I had the iPad in the wrong direction, and if you're trying to watch it, it's going to be horizontal, and I'm really sorry about that. It's all trial and error. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how to process a regrettable incident. So a regrettable incident could be anything that is, you've said or done something that caused an argument between you and your partner. And the truth is, this can be true for anything. It can be true for a romantic relationship. It can be true for a work relationship. But obviously, when it's more emotionally charged, we tend to become not very good at solving problems. So I would encourage you to listen to the steps that you can take, and hopefully this will help you process your regrettable incident. And that's I'm quoting the terms that Gottman's use as far as talking about incidents that were not very good, that may have caused hurt feelings. So before we get started, it's very important that you keep in mind that the goal of this exercise is not to come up with a solution, but it is to engage in deeper understanding. So you are trying to understand each other's points of view. Without understanding, it's very difficult to come to any kind of consensus. So our main goal here is to try and understand the other person's point of view and understand it from without an agenda. So it has to be their viewpoint, not yours. So when we listen to someone with agenda, the typical tone of the interaction goes where the person who's listening tends to jump in even before the speaker has stopped to say something like, oh, but oh, but I didn't, so that when you have that kind of an interaction happening, you know that the listener is really not listening with an open mind. So this is a very important exercise, not just for the speaker, but it's even more important for the listener. So what I'm going to share today are some tips on how to listen, where you can hear the other person's point of view and without agenda. So you want to listen for feelings. You want to start by listening for feelings. This would be, so from a speaker's perspective, it would be the speaker is responsible for talking about how they felt. Now, oftentimes people will say something like, I feel like you don't do, or I feel like you do this. Well, that's not really a feeling. So the feeling part would be, I feel unheard, I feel judged, I feel defensive. So some of the feelings words could be something like, I feel not listened to, I feel hurt, I feel flooded, could be I feel misunderstood. So really pay attention to the word. So if you are sharing your experience and you're talking about feelings, you want it to be feeling words. It should not be describing what the listener has done or not done. Then you can use the realities. So you can describe the realities. You can take turns, you can summarize and validate at least part of what your partner's reality is. So it could be something like, I felt disappointed when I heard you say you had done all the cleaning, and I saw that you were excited about getting the cleaning done, but then when I went into the bathroom, I saw that you really hadn't cleaned the sink or the shower. So you are validating your partner's reality of, you said you had cleaned and you were happy about cleaning, but you're not saying something, you're not making a judgment, you're not judging your partner and saying, well, you lied to me, or you're a bad cleaner, or none of that. You're saying, I was surprised because, or I was disappointed because I thought you were cleaning, but you really didn't clean this. So you can describe your feeling, which is disappointment, but you also describe your partner's reality. Then you can also talk about your triggers. So the triggers would be something where you say, well, in the past when I have had somebody say something like they've done the job and I relied on them to have done the job, and I go back and find out it wasn't done, that was very frustrating for me. So this triggered me in that respect, because I felt like I wanted to trust you when you said that you had done the job, but I really couldn't when I saw that you hadn't done it. So you can talk about your triggers. You can take responsibility, which would be, I know that, I have a certain way of cleaning, and that I tend to be picky about what gets cleaned and how and when. And so I accept that about myself, and that maybe you had cleaned, but it wasn't the way I would have done, and that was annoying to me. And then you can come up with a constructive plan. You can make an offer. You can say something like, well, in the future, if we have an understanding that you are going to clean, maybe I can be specific about what I would like for you to clean. And you can be specific about what you did clean. So you could have said something like, I cleaned the windows and I vacuumed the carpet, but I didn't clean the rest of the bathroom. So that way I know what to expect, because in this incident, I was sort of taken aback because I was thrilled that you had cleaned the bathroom, but then when I went into the bathroom and saw that it was still dirty, I was sort of irritated and annoyed about that, and so I just wanted to share that with you. So that would be the speaker. So how does the listener now respond? How would the listener have to respond? So the listener's job would be more like, okay, I hear that. So the listener first needs to validate the speaker. You need to validate what you heard, and you need to validate it without agenda, or without your own agenda, without trying to protect yourself or defend yourself. So you would say something like, oh, okay, so I hear what you're saying is that you were surprised or you were a little disappointed when you heard me say that I had cleaned and I was happy about cleaning. And then you went into the bathroom and you saw that the bathroom was not cleaned. And so that made you kind of worry about, am I really cleaning or not? So I can see how since I hadn't specified what I cleaned, that you could think that I cleaned the whole bathroom, and that would be somewhat of a surprise for you to go in and find out that it wasn't cleaned. So by saying that, what I'm doing here is I am validating the speaker's feelings of kind of disappointment, and I'm not jumping in there to defend myself. And whenever we defend ourselves, we don't typically listen or hear what the speaker has to say. At this point, it would be important for the listener to say, and I also hear that in the past you've had some experiences with others where they have said that they're going to do something and they haven't done it, and then you felt like it fell on you again. And I can see how that would be annoying, and I can see how that would make you feel like you cannot really trust me. So again, I'm taking another step on justifying or validating what the speaker has said. Now would be the part where the listener is taking responsibility. And I could say something like, well, I can understand how you might have thought that I cleaned the whole bathroom when I came out and I said I'm all done cleaning. So I could have been more specific at saying that I'm all done vacuuming. I know that we had been talking about cleaning the bathroom, and that is not something that I did. I just vacuumed the room and I cleaned the windows, which I really wanted to clean for a long time. So I can see that you might have thought that I had cleaned the bathroom and I hadn't done that. So I have to take responsibility for that and say, you know what, yeah, I should have been more specific as to what I cleaned. The next thing would be the constructive plan. So at this point, the listener can make a suggestion as to, well, next time when I clean something, I will make sure that I'm specific and I say, hey, I got done cleaning, I got done vacuuming, but the bathroom still needs to be cleaned. Instead of bringing all the cleaning supplies down and almost giving the impression that everything had been done. So here we have both people taking responsibility for their parts, taking responsibility for the part that they played, their assumptions, their expectations, their feelings, because the same experience doesn't always bring up the same feeling in every individual. It's not always the uniform feeling. So different people respond differently, and it's important that we take ownership of that. We take ownership of our feeling and not kind of make a blanket judgment as to, well, this is how everybody would feel. Well, maybe not, but this is how you feel. So take responsibility for that and say, I was disappointed. I was upset. I wanted it to be done. I, was hoping that you would get the bathroom cleaned, but you didn't. And so that upset me. And in the future, let's be very clear about what we're going to clean when and who's going to do it and by what time. Because, when I say, hey, can you clean the bathroom, you don't really necessarily know how or when I want it cleaned. You may think, okay, well, I'll wait till tomorrow to clean it. But in my mind, I'm thinking you're going to clean it now because it's the weekend. And so I think it's important that I take responsibility for saying when I would like it to be cleaned, and also for you to take responsibility where when you say I have cleaned it, that you can say something like, I've cleaned this, but I'll clean that tomorrow. So I hope this little piece here helps you kind of navigate some difficult situations you may have had in your relationships, in your interactions with people. And if you have any other topics you'd like me to touch on, please feel free to drop me a line right here at the bottom of the screen, and I will for sure try to touch on those. Well, thanks for listening.